بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So today inshallah we start with الركن الثاني, the second pillar of the 5 pillars of Islam, as the second lesson in the book. The second lesson in the book is regarding the 5 pillars. It's the first lesson that we didn't do, because there's a whole section in the beginning on tafsir of the short surahs, the explanation of the short surahs from, I think it's a zalzala, from the earthquake to Salat an-Nas. That's a whole class in itself. The second lesson is what we started with, the Arkan of Islam. So we finished the first one, the Shahada, which is the most important of the pillars. And what is the meaning of the Shahada, the conditions of the Shahada, the Arkan, the pillars of the Shahada, the meaning of Muhammad Rasulullah. And now we move to the second pillar, which is the most important after the Shahada. The Salat. The Salat. And from one of the proofs that the Salat is second important, does anybody know? How do we know the Salat is second important and not the first thing that we should call people to?
Well, when the first thing you have to accept it, right? And then, we here to worship Allah. That's a form of worship.
Right. So should the Salat be before the Shahada?
No.
Why not?
Because it proves that you believe in the first part.
Huh?
It's proof that you believe in the first part.
The Salat is proof that you believe in the one tayyib. An ayah or a hadith, directing us to teach or call people to Shahada first and then to the Salat. Huh? Yes.
I knew the answer. I just thought it was a trick question.
No, I'm not trying to. No, it's just.
You can't put the cart before the horse, right?
You can't put the cart before the horse. Tayyib. Aqli, that's perfect intellectually. But do we have any direction from Allah or from His Messenger to teach the Shahada, or to say that the Shahada is the most important thing and the Salat is not the most important thing? That's the question. Huh? Yes.
Now, do I know the answer?
Inshallah. Huh? Yes.
I can only give an educated answer on that. I don't know the correct answer.
You might know the correct answer.
I might know it once I hear it.
Tayyib. The hadith with the Prophet ﷺ, it's more than one. One hadith is that we mentioned in the beginning. Islam is built on 5, and then the Prophet ﷺ said what was first? The Shahada first, and then he mentioned the Salat second. So the ulama, the scholars of Islam, say this shows that he put the most important thing first, and then the second most important, and then after that, and down the line. The other hadith, when the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh to Yemen, when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, and he said, you're going to a people of the book. So make the first thing that you tell them, you call them to, is Shahada, and la ilaha illallah. And if they accept that, then let them know that they have prayers that are made obligatory upon them throughout the day and throughout the night. So this is not just the author's opinion of what's most important and what's not most important. According to the Prophet ﷺ, and according to the way that the messengers will call their people. They didn't call their people to the prayer first. They called their people to single out Allah and worship Allah first. Single out Allah and Tawheed. And then after that, Tayyib. Huh? Yes. So, that's the first thing he covers. That the Salat, we know it's the second pillar. وَهِيَ أَعْظَمُ مَبَانِيهِ بَعْدَ التَّوْحِيدِ. It is the most important thing that we have to establish in our lives after a tawheed. After singing Allah and worship, and understanding La ilaha illallah, the next most important thing after the Shahada is establishing the prayer. And like you said, Sheikh, he says the same thing. وَهِيَ بُرْهَانُ لِصِدْقِ إِيمَانِ الشَّخْصِ. That a person establishing the Salat is a proof of that person's faith. Is a proof that a person establishes the prayer. It is a proof if that person is truthful in his belief in Allah Jalla wa Ala. كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, عندما ذكرت عنده الصلاة, when the Salat was mentioned to him, in this hadith is in, we'll read it at the end. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said when the Salat was mentioned, من حافظ عليها كانت له نورا وبرهانا ونجاة يوم القيامة. Whoever guards his Salat, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the last day, he will have nuran, light, wa burhanan, and it will be a proof for him. And he will have najat, success, on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And then he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the opposite. وَمَنْ لَمْ يُحَافِظْ عَلَيْهَا, and the one who doesn't guard his Salat, and he's going to mention what guard the Salat means. Whoever doesn't guard the Salat, لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ نُورٌ, that he won't have light Yawm al-Qiyamah. وَلَا بُرْهَانٌ, and he won't have a proof. It won't be a proof for him Yawm al-Qiyamah. وَلَا نَجَاتٍ, he will not be successful Yawm al-Qiyamah. And it says at the end of the hadith that he will be with Fir'aun. In this hadith, أخرجه Imam Ahmed والدارمي والبيهقي وابن حبان عن عبد الله ibn Amr. So this hadith is not in specifically Bukhari and Muslim, but is it a condition that a hadith has to be in Bukhari or Muslim to be authentic? No, it doesn't have to be Bukhari. Many different books of hadith. Those books are the strongest, the most authentic, but we find authentic hadith outside of Bukhari and Muslim. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. He says, فَالصَّلَاةُ بُرْهَانٌ, that the Salat is a burhan, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Meaning, شَاهِدٌ وَدَلِيلٌ عَلَى صِدْقِ إِيمَانِ الشَّخْصِ, that the Salat is a witness that a person is truthful in their belief in Allah Jalla wa Ala, that they establish and they make the Salat. It's a proof that the person is truthful in the first rukn, which is the Shahada. And he brings many different, he brings an ayat here, but he brings a hadith here that we spoke about a couple classes ago. The issue in this hadith is one proof that is used to determine that the scholars who differ, if a person does not pray, a Muslim who doesn't pray, are they still Muslim or not? That the ulama, the scholars of Islam, differ, not just now, it's not something new. We're talking about back in the Imam Malik, Imam Ahmed, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i. This is not a new difference of opinion. It's not restricted to certain countries. Well, they are extreme because they say that if you don't pray, you're not Muslim. It's an old issue. It's an old issue. So this khilaf, that in this detail, we're not going to get into that, the long detail. I'm just mentioning that this is one of the proofs that the scholars who say the person who leaves off the prayer is not a Muslim, they use this hadith. That the Prophet ﷺ, أنه قال الأهد الذي بيننا وبينهم الصلاة فمن تركها فقد كفر. That the contract or the agreement that is between us, al-ahd, or the contract that is between us and them, meaning the non-Muslim, or the munafiqeen or the kuffar, is the salat. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنْ تَرَكَهَا فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. So whoever leaves the salat, then he has disbelieved. Right? That's one hadith that they use, and there are other hadith that they use. We're not talking about that issue specifically right now. Right now, the discussion on the salat and the rest of the pillars is a discussion of their status in Islam. not necessarily the details of the salat now. This portion of the book right now is just establishing, okay, these are the pillars. Not necessarily right now how to make the salat, the takbirat al-ihram. If you go into a ruku, what do you do? If you come late, this is not in this chapter. This chapter is just established, okay, this is a pillar and this is why. This is a pillar, this is why. This is a pillar, this is why. And then go to the next chapter. The more detailed things come later in the book. But this hadith, al-ahdu alladhi baynana baynahum as-salat. This is one of the hadith, the proofs that the scholars who say that the one who doesn't pray is not a Muslim, that they use this. This is one of them. And there are others that go along with it. There are ayat that they use, a long discussion. And it's enough to show the importance that there are scholars of Islam going back to the 4 imams that say that, and they understand from these different texts that the person who doesn't pray is not Muslim. That's dangerous enough. It's dangerous enough to know that it's possible that that hadith does mean that. Yes, the scholars differ. Some say this, some they say that. But who wants to gamble with that Yawm al-Qiyamah? So it's enough to show the importance of the salat. And he didn't get into all that in right here. He just mentioned that hadith. Now he's mentioning the importance of the salat in al-Islam. So he says that the importance, shatnun alim, that it has a high status. The salah has a high status in al-Islam. وَهِيَ أَوَّلُ مَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْهُ الْعَبْدِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. That the first thing that the person will be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. The first thing that a person will be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah will be the salah. طيب. He didn't mention the hadith, but he mentioned the meaning of the hadith. But this hadith is in الترمذي. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إن أول ما يحاسب به العبد يوم القيامة من عمله صلاته، فإن صلحت فقد أفلح وأنجح، وإن فسدت فقد خاب وخسر. That Abu Huraira رضي الله عنه, the famous companion. Does anybody know what Abu Huraira was known for? Abu Huraira? Yes, large memorization of hadith.
He was known for also following the Prophet because he was hungry most of the time. So
Allah Akbar. Abu Huraira. Now, he was known to stick closely to the Prophet ﷺ. And this is how he gathered a lot of hadith. Some of the other Sahaba were busy doing things that they had to attend to. Abu Huraira would stick closely to the Prophet ﷺ. Not that the other Sahaba didn't want to, but this was his condition. His situation allowed him to stay very close to the Prophet ﷺ, and therefore he gathered many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He narrated this hadith. It's in Imam al-Tirmidhi's collection. The Prophet ﷺ said that the first thing that a slave will be held accountable from his actions Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. That's the first thing that a person will be held accountable from his actions Yawm al-Qiyamah, the salah. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِن صَلُحَتْ فَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ وَأَنْجَحَ. So if his salat is correct, then he will be successful. أَفْلَحَ وَأَنْجَحَ. And if his salat is not correct, فَإِن فَسَدَتْ فَقَدْ خَابَ وَخَسِرَ. Then he will be at a great loss. First thing that the person will be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. So now we're talking about the importance of the salah. And he mentioned the same thing, but he just paraphrased. The Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Abbad, he paraphrased the hadith. But I just wanted to read the text of the hadith. طيب. Now he moves on to the numerous ayat in the Quran that discuss the importance of the salah. وقد جاء في القرآن نصوص كثيرة في الأمر بإقامتها ومحافظة عليها والعناية بمواقيتها والتحذير من السهو عنها والتفريط فيها وإضاعتها. That there are many ayat in the Quran. We won't read all of them, but there are many ayat in the Quran commanding us to establish the prayer and to guard the prayer and to be aware of the times of the prayer. and also warning us from being lazy and negligent of the prayer. All of these ayat come in the Quran. And the first ayat he mentions is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 238. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 238. Where Allah says, Jalla wa ala, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. Guard the prayers and guard the middle prayer, where Allah mentions specifically the middle prayer. And وقوموا لله قانتين, and stand before Allah قانتين. In this ayat there's a principle to show how important something is that the ulama use in usul al-fiqh, and it is called atf. Al-atf al-khas al-am or al-am al-khas. Here, to show the importance of something, Allah said in the Quran, guard the prayers, hafidhu ala salawat. How many prayers do we have? 5. Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Khalas. طيب. Allah said, guard the prayers. Then Allah said, was Salat al-Wusta. And He mentioned, and the middle prayer. Is the middle prayer from the 5? طيب. Allah mentioned the middle prayer again, showing the importance of the middle prayer. So Allah, what He did was, Ibn Kathir said about this ayat, Imam Syid. He said that, and the ayat is clear, وَيَأْمُرُ بِالْمُحَافَظَةِ عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ عُمُومًا. Allah generally commanded us to guard all of the prayers. وَعَلَى الصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى وَهِيَ صَلَاةُ الْعَصْرِ خُصُوصًا. And then Allah specified the middle prayer. And many of the scholars say that, scholars of tafsir, they say that the middle prayer is Salat al-Asr. And there's some khilaf in that, but many of them say it is Salat al-Asr. So Allah specified guard all of the prayers and then guard specifically Salat al-Asr, showing the importance of something that's called atf. Al-atf al-am or al-khas al-am. Allah mentions general and then He mentions something from the first generality again to show the importance of it. طيب. وَالْمُحَافَظَةَ عَلَيْهَا. And this is the tafsir of Imam Saajid. What does it mean to guard the prayers? We say guard the prayer. How do you guard your prayer? He says, أَدَاؤُهَا بِوَقْتِهَا. That we perform the prayers inside of their established times. This is from guarding the prayer. That you pray Maghrib in the time that Maghrib is supposed to be established. You pray Dhuhr between the time that Dhuhr is established. It's supposed to be established. Unless you have an udhr shari, an Islamically legislated reason to delay the prayer. Like, when can we drink? Traveling. Alright? Then we can delay Maghrib and pray with Isha. Or you can delay, right? You have a reason to pray the prayer outside of its normal time. That we pray, guarding the Salat is praying it in its time. And also, that we perform the prayer. And we also perform the conditions of the prayer. That we don't pray without fulfilling the conditions first. One of the conditions is al-wudu. And what else? An intention, facing the Qibla, facing the Kaaba. All of those conditions, those shurut, are met first before we stand to pray. This is guarding the prayer. It says, وَأَرْكَانِهَا. And that we fulfill the pillars of the prayer. And these things, the shurut, the conditions of the prayer, the pillars of the prayer, is going to mention later on in the book. But from the arkan of salat, al-qiyam, standing, al-ruku', making the ruku', those things that we perform those things and perform them correctly. وَخُشُوعِهَا, that we have khushu' in the prayer, that we're focused, we're concentrating in the salat. This is from establishing the prayer or guarding the prayer. Not that we just stand and pray real quick because, we got to get to the right aid before it closes. or Allah Mustaan, wherever we trying to go, we're in a rush to get to. But we establish the prayer knowing that it's people that die in sajda. People die. People leave out of the masjid and die after that salat. So we try to establish the prayer to the best of our ability. Tayyib. And then Allah says at the end of the ayat, وَقُومِ لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand before Allah qaniteen. And then the tafsir says, qaniteen meaning stand before Allah with khushu'. That you're concentrating, you have humility, that you're aware that you're standing before Allah Jalla wa'ala, that you're aware that this standing in the salat is the first thing that everyone will be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah. So we stand in the prayer. We ask Allah to give us tawfiq to stand like that. That we stand in the prayer, recalling these things and remembering these things, and that we have khushu'. Tayyib. The next ayat, Allah says another command, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and establish the prayer and pay the zakat. He says, فِي أَكْثَرْ مِنْ مَوْضِعٍ مِنْ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. And the ayat comes like this in more than one place in the Quran. Establish the prayer and pay the zakat. Establish the prayer and pay the zakat. In another ayat, Allah mentions the importance of the time. قال جل وعلا إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. That the prayers have been made obligatory upon the believers in specified times. قال Ibn Mas'ud, whose first name was Ibn Mas'ud. Does anybody know his first name?
Was it Abdullah?
Abdullah, no. Ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who was Sahaba. A great Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. To show that these is important, it's not just mentioning names for names. You know who's explaining this stuff. Who said that about the ayat? Who said it? Is this new? Is this something you got in Saudi from Saudi scholars? A lot of people say that. Huh? Ibn Mas'ud, a companion of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, and this is mentioned in Tafsir ibn Kathir, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, إِنَّ لِلصَّلَاةِ وَقْتًا كَوَقْتِ الْحَجِّ. That the salat has a specific time, just like Hajj has a specific time. You can't just go make Hajj anytime you want. Hajj has a specific time so that the Muslims recognize, everyone recognizes, okay, this time of the year on the Islamic calendar, it's time to make Hajj. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said the same thing. The salat has a specific time, kawaqt al-Hajj. Just like Hajj has a specific time. It has to be done within that time that Allah legislated. You can't just go make Hajj during Ramadan. People think you're crazy. So I'm going to make Hajj during Ramadan, for example. So, the time. That ayat is in Surah An-Nisa, ayat 103. And he mentions many ayat. He mentions a few more ayat. And he mentions another ayat where Allah says in Surah Al-Mudaththir, ayats 42 and 43, where Allah said, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. Where Allah said, what landed you all fi saqar? Saqar. What landed you all fi saqar? This is what the people, and this khilaf and tafsir of who these people are. Some of them say that they are children. The children who died and they don't have any sins, that the ones in paradise. The people in paradise will say to the people, fi saqar. How did you get there? What landed you there? What is saqar? Hellfire. What landed you fi saqar? Ma salakakum fi saqar. Right? And those people will respond, قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. That we weren't from the people who prayed. We weren't from the people who established the prayer. This is Surah Al-Mudaththir, ayats 42 and 43. As-salamu alaykum. And the tafsir says, أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَدْخَلَكُمْ فِيهَا. What is the thing that entered you all into the hellfire? قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. Ibn Kathir says, ما عبدنا ربنا, that we didn't worship our Lord. We didn't worship our Lord. They didn't establish the prayer. And then after that, there are more things that entered them to the hellfire. And this is another proof that those who say that the one who doesn't pray is not Muslim, they use that ayat also. What landed you all in the hellfire? لم نكن من المصلين. We weren't from the people who prayed. طيب. And he mentions a few more ayat, but all given the same meaning. Then he moves on, and he mentions a hadith showing the importance of the Salat. In this hadith, he's discussing ihtimam bis Salat and giving great attention to the prayer, the great status of the Salat. So the last hadith he mentions is in Sahih Muslim, which is book number for the Muslims. La.
Number 2.
La.
You should say Muslim.
There you go. Huh? 3. Number 1 is Al-Qura. Allah snakes. طيب Al-Quran. No. It's not a trick question. I want to say exactly, third book for the Muslim. This is not like written in stone, like number 1, but we all know that the Quran is the book of Allah. There's no book free from any mistake except the Quran. Quran is the Kalam Allah, and that is our number 1 without any mistakes or any deficiencies in it. The ulama have said that Sahih Bukhari is number 2 with regards to being authentic. Narrations in Sahih Muslim is number 3. Some have said that Sahih Muslim is number 2 over Bukhari, but yes.
Wasn't Muslim a student of Bukhari?
Yes. But that doesn't mean that his book can't be, he could be, the student could be better than the teacher. Mumkin.
One has more change.
Huh?
One has more change than the other.
More ahadith?
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make a difference if
10 people as opposed to 3.
Oh, you mean closeness?
Right.
He could be close, but if they're not authentic, right? We're not gonna get into all that. We're going to call the hadith disciple to chime in on that. We might have to call up a good brother and let him go in on that. Tayyib. But it's not etched in stone that Bukhari is 2 and Muslim is 3. But it's a strong opinion that Bukhari is stronger than Sahih Muslim. And they're both, alhamdulillah, sufficient. طيب, this hadith is in Sahih Muslim عن Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan. Who is? Huh? The companion. Huh?
He's one of the 4 caliphs.
There you are. Uthman ibn Affan. One of the 4. رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. He said, Uthman said, I heard the Messenger of Allah say, ما من امرئ مسلم تحضره صلاة مكتوبة فيحسن وضوءه وخشوعه وركوعه إلا كانت كفارة لما قبلها من الذنوب ما لم يؤتي كبيرا. He said, there's no person who attends the prayer. They go to the Salat. They go to the obligatory prayer. They go to the obligatory prayer and he perfects his wudu. Number 1. And his khushu' is there. He's concentrating. He recognizes he's standing before Allah. He's focused in the salat. He perfects his ruku'. He's not in a rush. Real quick, without giving the ruku' its proper right. He perfects his ruku'. He said, there's no person that does this إِلَّا كَانَتْ كَفَّارَةً لِمَا قَبَلَهَا مِنَ الذُّنُوبِ. Except the person who does this, he said, no person does this except that salat will remove his previous sins. That the salat will remove his previous sins. Then the Prophet ﷺ put a condition on it. مَا لَمْ يُؤْتِ كَبِيرَةً. Kabiratan. As long as he doesn't commit the major sins. The major sins. And Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, has a book, Al-Kabair. The major sins, titled The Major Sins. And the explainer of this book, Shaykh Abdul Razak Al-Abbad, he explained that book also, and in the beginning he said it's for the Muslim that the Muslim should at least read the table of contents of the book Al-Kabair, the major sins, just to know what the major sins are. Just to know what the major sins are in Al-Islam. They should read the whole book, but at least go through the table of contents and be familiar with the major sins. And how do we know what a major sin is, just for a side point?
Anything Allah curse, anything Allah curse or has a severe punishment for.
Prohibition?
No, anything Allah, I know anything Allah curse.
If Allah cursed that action, it's a major sin. The Prophet ﷺ cursed that action, it's a major sin. So we got to mention now, the Prophet ﷺ cursed.
Name the title?
No. The Prophet, we don't go too deep in it, but we got to mention that anything that Allah cursed or the Messenger of Allah ﷺ cursed is to be considered from the major sins. So the Prophet ﷺ cursed the tattooer and the one who gets tattoos. That's all. We living right now in a time where Allah understand, no shame, a major sin. The Prophet ﷺ cursed the one who gives the tattoo and the one who receives the tattoo. That's Allah to forgive us all. And the Prophet ﷺ cursed the woman who gets fake hair put extended in her hair, and the one who does it. The one who does it, does the hair, and the one who gets it done. It's not me. It's hadith and Bukhari. The second most authentic book after the Quran. These are hadith I mentioned. And the man say that one of the ways we know that something is a major sin is that Allah cursed it or the Messenger of Allah ﷺ cursed that thing. So this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, and this is in Sahih Muslim, the one who does this, he comes to the salat like this and perfects these things, that salat will expiate his previous sins as long as he didn't fall into the major sin. So if he fell into the major sin, then what? He has to repent for that sin specifically. Tayyib. That was the second rukn, salat. As you see, he didn't go into too much detail. We just established, and it's a pillar, the seriousness of it, the status of it in Islam, and we move to the third pillar, az-zakat. And in this portion is very short. He just mentioned some of the benefits of a zakat, the charity, the obligatory charity, but he doesn't mention the conditions, right? What do we have to pay? When we have to pay zakat on that? All that's not mentioned here. This we're just establishing the 5 pillars are these, as zakat. He says, وَهِيَ قَرِينَةُ الصَّلَاةِ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ جَلَّ وَعَلَى. And it is, let's say, a companion. It is mentioned in the Quran right alongside the salat. In more than one ayat, not just once. Allah mentioned the salat and paid the zakat in numerous ayat, not just one. As he mentioned on the previous page, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ. And that's the Surah Al-Baqarah, and there's many ayat where Allah mentioned them together. وَالزَّكَاةُ تَطْهِرُ الْمَرْأَةِ. It purifies a person. Paying that zakat purifies a person. Now he's going to mention some of the benefits of the zakat. But تُزَكِّ مَالَهُ. It purifies his wealth and his heart. And he says, وَتَكُونُ بَرَكَةً لَهُ وَلِمَالِهِ. And the person, when he pays his zakat, it puts blessings in his wealth. How is that? The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, أخرجه Muslim, in Sahih Muslim, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, the same companion that was mentioned the previous, or one of the previous hadith. Abu Hurairah narrated, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا نَقَصَتْ صَدَقَةٌ مِّن مَالٍ, that when a person gives his sadaqah or pays sadaqah, they give that charity, it doesn't decrease his wealth. His wealth is not decreased by giving the sadaqah. طيب. So he says now, وَالزَّكَاةُ قَلِيلٌ مِّن كَثِيرٍ أَعْطَاهُ اللَّهُ جَلَّ وَعَلَى الْأَغْنِيَاءِ. That zakat, if you look at it, it's a small percentage. It's a small percentage. Rubul Usha, 2.5. It's small considering the amount of wealth somebody might have. If you fall under the conditions, as he's not going to mention, but there are conditions for paying the zakat. So if a person meets all the conditions that are mentioned, not here, but generally they're mentioned in the books of fiqh, Qutb al-Fiqh, that those conditions, one, that they're a Muslim, the person paying zakat is a Muslim, and that he meets the nisab, his money has reached a certain level, and what type of money, and what, all of that is mentioned in the books of fiqh. Here he's just mentioning, if you are obliged, if you fall under the people who have to pay, it's a small percentage, 2.5%. Rubul Usha is not a lot. But if all the Muslims who fall under that are paying it, then it's a major benefit for the Islamic society, the Islamic community. It's a major benefit if the Muslims are establishing that pillar, even if it's small from you. When it's gathered up all together, it's a major benefit. So he says, وَهِيَ صَدَقَةٌ تُؤْخَذُ مِنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ وَتُرَدُّ عَلَى الْفُقَرَاءِ. And that comes in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is in Sahih al-Bukhari, and it's in Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ says, صَدَقَةً تُؤْخَذُ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ فَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. It's a sadaqah, it's a charity, it's taken from the rich and given to the poor. The rich doesn't necessarily mean the rich that we know. The rich, if you meet the conditions for zakat, if you fall into the condition, you're considered from those people who have to pay. If the certain money is at a certain level, if you fall, you're from the people who need to pay the zakat. It doesn't necessarily mean that rich is how we understand rich to be in English. And we gotta be careful. You can't base Islamic ahkam rulings on English words. You can't do that because all English words don't necessarily fit the meaning of what the Islamic term is describing. We might understand one thing in English, but it doesn't really give the same meaning in Arabic. That's not what's meant in Arabic. It might be a direct translation, but translations are not always accurate. And translations don't always give, meaning a single word translation doesn't always give the understanding of the issue. So it says rich, min al-aghniya, that the rich give to the poor. We can all sit here and say, well, I'm not rich, so I don't fall under that anyway. Right? Is anybody here rich? No. If we can all sit here and say, I'm not rich, so I don't fall under that. But there are conditions that we all could possibly fall under, because they're not like strenuous conditions. They're conditions that it's possible we fall under, it's possible we don't. So that rich in the hadith doesn't necessarily mean you have to be like a millionaire. That's not the meaning of rich here in the legislation. So from the benefits of the zakat, and there are many, he said, min tahqiq al-muwaddah, that it actualizes muwaddah, love between the believers. Because if a person is really in need, and someone comes and gives them something, just like we see during Ramadan, is what the Zakat and Fasting. If a person is really in need, they appreciate that. They really, if they need it, if they're seriously in need, they appreciate it. And it was the nicest, not as nice as people poor, but in Mecca, for Zakat al-Fitr, the best time is to distribute it the day of their Eid after Salat al-Fajr. It's the best time to distribute the Zakat al-Fitr. A lot of times, you can do it the day before and all that, but we might do it the night before because it's easier for us. We want to get to the prayer, we won't miss the prayer. But in Mecca, you can go outside after Salat al-Fajr, and there are people literally on the street waiting for the Zakat al-Fitr. They know that it's obligatory for the Muslims to pay this. So they're there waiting. And you give them, it's not like, I'm not knocking what we do, but I'm just being real. It's a bag, a Ziploc bag of rice. Not a whole bag of rice. We do a mud, where you might go in your house, literally. As we used to do, go in the house, wash your hands, clean your hands, dip your hands in the rice, put it in the plastic bag. Like, that's for you, wife. And you go out and you give it to them just like that. And they, Jazakallah khair, and they, alhamdulillah, they happy. And they wait there, there's more people coming after Fajr. So, it's a small thing, but it builds love. And you can hear they're making dua for you. You don't know these people from a can of paint. A lot of time they're women. You don't know them, never seen their face. They maybe never see them again in your life, but they appreciate it. It builds the love. It's an end. It shows the mercy between the believers. All the things that we're supposed to be practicing. But ta'awun, it shows the Muslims working together upon bir, upon good and righteousness. And it removes zawal al-khisal al-dhamima min hasadin wa bughdah wa adwan wa ghayru dhalik. And it removes those negative characteristics of envy, hatred, enmity toward each other, and other things. It's only right if somebody gives you something that you're thankful, especially if you need it. If you need it and somebody gives you something, it's only right that the person's going to be thankful. So it removes all of these things. لأنها تحقق مصالح العظيمة للمجتمعات المسلمة. Because it brings a general benefit to the Muslim community. Where those poor Muslims from amongst us, they don't have to come and ask. As many people don't want to ask. They don't have to be shy to ask. That we go and we pay it. They don't have to come ask. And they appreciate it. They appreciate it that they didn't have to come ask, that a person recognized that they needed it and they came and gave it to their brother without them asking. Tayyib. So this is the zakat. And it keeps it short like this. فَمَنْ كَانَ عِنْدَهُ مَالٌ يَبْلُغُ النِّصَابَ وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَتَعَلَّمَ أَحْكَامَهَا. So whoever reaches that point that it becomes obligatory upon him, he has to learn the rulings connected to the paying of zakat. Why does he have to learn the rulings? What's the importance of learning the rulings for zakat? It's not a trick question. I'm not sure. This is a real question. It's simple, but just to make sure we're clear, what's the benefit of learning the ahkam of zakat? If it's time for me to pay zakat, right, I fit all the conditions, what's the benefit of learning the rulings of it? So I know how much to pay. So I know how much to pay, so I make sure I'm paying the zakat right. It's a pillar. It's not like, sunnah. I might do it next year. It's obligatory upon you. It's a pillar. So if it's a pillar, you're going to fulfill a pillar, just like the Hajj. You make Hajj, you want Hajj classes, you want to make sure it's a pillar. I paid all this money. You want to make sure that you do it right the first time. You might not get to make it again. So let me make sure I get this thing right now. And that's how, So you telling me, stone, we get real specific on Hajj. So if I do, real touchy. Everything is like on eggshells. It's a pillar. Zakat is a pillar. So if it's obligatory upon us to pay the zakat, then we need to learn the ahkam of zakat at that point. حَتَّى يُؤَدِّيَهَا كَمَا أَمَرَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا. So that we do it and we perform and give the pillar its right as Allah commanded. And that يُحَافِظَ عَلَى إِخْرَاجِهَا طَيِّبَةً بِهَا نَفْسُهُ. And that a person pays the zakat and he doesn't feel in his heart any anger, or he doesn't feel like he doesn't really want to pay it, but I got to pay it anyway. طيب النفس. He knows that it's ibadah, it's worship. He knows it's obligatory upon him. He knows that by performing this act of worship is going to bring him closer to Allah with sincere intention. And that's how he pays his zakat. With all that in mind, this is a pillar. Alhamdulillah, I'm able to fulfill the pillar that Allah made obligatory upon me. Not that I got to get 2.5. I could have bought, whatever. I could have bought. That he has طيب النفس. طيبة بها نفسه. Seeking Allah's reward. And he mentions a nice principle here that's mentioned in that hadith that he's going to bring later. وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ مُتَقَرِّبٌ إِلَى اللَّهِ بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَى اللَّهِ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَى عِبَادِهِ. And there's nothing that gets a person closer to Allah. There's nothing that Allah loves that a person does. Right? There's nothing that gets a person closer than Allah. And Allah loves that action more than the things that Allah made obligatory. The obligatory things are going to gain Allah's love the most. Not that the voluntary actions don't. But the voluntary actions are secondary to the obligatory. Praying in Ramadan, Tarawih. Praying Tarawih is secondary to praying Isha. Praying Tarawih is secondary to praying Salat al-Fajr. Salat al-Fajr is obligatory. We stay up all night praying Tarawih and hanging out, drinking coffee, and then oversleep Fajr. Man, Fajr is obligatory. Fajr is one of the 5 obligatory prayers. Tarawih is extra. It's khair, it's good, but it's not ola. It's not the first. It's secondary to those things that are obligatory. So the things that gain Allah's love the most from the slaves are those obligatory things that He made obligatory upon us, and that is in a hadith that comes in the next, or in the last pillar, or after the last pillar. طيب, that's the end of zakat. الركن الرابع الصيام. Fasting. The 4th pillar, fasting. Fasting Ramadan. Ramadan shahrul mubarak azim. And Ramadan is what month on the Islamic calendar? The 9th. We got a Muslim calendar. It's 12 months. Ramadan is the 9th month. Ramadan is the 9th month on that calendar. So Allah made that month on the Islamic calendar, which is called Ramadan, obligatory to fast, which may not come. Ramadan is not September, and Ramadan is not April. Ramadan is Ramadan, and that's the importance of knowing the Islamic months and having the Islamic calendar, because the ahkam, the rulings in Islam, the ahkam of the deen are connected to the Islamic calendar. Meaning, when we fast, for example, Yom Ashura or Muharram, it has nothing to do with January or November or October. It's connected to the month, the Islamic month, Muharram. The 10th of Muharram. The 10th of Muharram might be equal to July 5th this year, but next year you can't just wait for July 5th and say I'm fasting Muharram again. You gotta know, okay, on the Islamic calendar, Muharram this year was on July 5th, for example. Okay, but next year, okay, it's on the 7th or the 10th. So the ahkam are connected to the Islamic calendar, Hijri, not to our calendar. Tayyib. So it's the 9th month, and the law made it obligatory based on, does anybody know the ayah? Shaykhana, father, the ayah that makes Ramadan obligatory.
2:183.
2:183. Sah. Like it. Sahih. 2:183. So the Baqarah ayah 183. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. All you who believe, fasting, كتب عليكم, is prescribed for you,
As it was prescribed for those
who were before you.
the al-Muttaqun.
Perhaps you may attain taqwa, the reason. To attain a taqwa. To attain the taqwa. So that kutiba, as explained in the tafsir, the ayah kutiba, where Allah says, it is, if you translate it kutiba, it has been written. It is written. But it means furida, yani it's being made obligatory upon you. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you may attain taqwa, fear of Allah. He says, فَالصِّيَامُ تَحْقِيقٌ لِتَقْوِ اللَّهِ وَتَخْلِيصٌ لِلنَّفْسِ مِنَ الشَّهْوَاتِ وَتَتَبُّعِهَا لِلْمُلَذَّاتِهَا وَشَهْوَاتِهَا. So, fasting Ramadan is supposed to cleanse a person from following their desires. And it's supposed to give a person, or increase them in their taqwa. That's what it's supposed to do. It's not just I'm trying to lose weight. I just want to lose, if I could, alhamdulillah, Ramadan's coming now, I could stop, I could probably shed like 10. That's not the cusp, that's not the hikmah, the wisdom behind it. The wisdom behind it is that we're supposed to come out of Ramadan better Muslims than we came in Ramadan. Not trying to go back to the way we were before Ramadan. So we fast all Ramadan, we straighten up and we stop this, we stop that. Astaghfirullah, it's Ramadan. Can't do that, Ramadan. Serious. Then after the Eid, Allah understand. That's not a taqwa. As it said, the Lord of Ramadan is the Lord of the other 11 months of the year. So we don't just try to fear Allah in Ramadan. We try to fear Allah all year round. Ramadan is supposed to be a springboard. Springboard is to carry us through the rest of the year. Tayyib. So he says, and this is important. He says that when a person trains himself على الصبر يمرن نفوس على الصبر عما تهواه عما يلائمها يوافق طبيعتها. That a person is, when he trains himself to be patient against following his desires, he trains himself. That's the word you use. That it's not like it's Ramadan, so we wake up obedient. You have to train yourself to be, be conscious. It's Ramadan, I'm not supposed to do it. I need to increase in this, I need to do more in this. When a person trains himself upon patience and staying away from things, he said this is how a person will attain that taqwa. And this is what will lead him to leaving off those things that are haram. Those things that you're not supposed to go to comes through training the nafs. Training yourself. We don't wake up the next day, just out of the blue perfect. But hey, I need to leave this off today. You fall into astaghfirullah. It's between you and Allah. It's not really for everybody to walk around. Yeah, today, man, I'm not listening to no music today. It's for you and your Lord, or whatever the issue is. That is between a person and his Lord. That he's trying to better himself. He's trying to get closer to Allah, and he's trying to leave that thing off, that problem that they may have between him and Allah. So it's a process of training oneself to become better. And when they do that, it says, "Hana alayha tark al-maharim." It becomes easy. When a person trains himself, he says it becomes easy to leave off those things that prevent him from gaining taqwa. The things that prevent a person from gaining Allah's love, they're easier to leave off when a person trains himself to leave them off. فهو جبة للعبد من الذنوب ومن سخط الله ومن سخط الرب سبحانه وتعالى. So it's a shield, as the Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, that fasting is a shield. Fasting is a shield. He said it's a shield that from sins. Fasting is a shield from sins and from those and from Allah's anger. That if a person is fasting as they're supposed to, that it will protect him from gaining Allah's anger. And lastly, he says, فَمَنْ وُفِّقَ لِأَدَاءِ الصِّيَامِ كَمَا يَنْبَغِي كَانَ لَهُ زَادًا فِي عَامِهِ كُلِّهِ. So whoever fasts Ramadan, كَمَا يَنْبَغِي, as he's supposed to, meaning staying away from what he's supposed to stay away from, fulfilling all the rulings and conditions, he said this will be a benefit for him throughout the rest of the year. يَصُومُ شَهْرًا لَكِنْ تَبْقَى آثَارُهُ فِي الْعَامِ كُلِّهِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. He fasts one day out of the year, but the result, the effect of that fast will carry him throughout the rest of the 11 months of the year. بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, by Allah's permission. And we'll stop there until next week, inshallah. We'll finish the 5th pillar, al-Hajj. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I don't know how to do this thing.